The I Ching is a living transmission of the divine, of consciousness. The I Ching, the Book of Change, is a map of the 64 changing cosmic frequencies of life, of consciousness. This is an ancient wisdom from thousands of years ago that was used to track and harmonize with the forces of nature in order to guide the people, an empire, a civilization. In the 1960s, humanity discovered the 64 genetic codons, our DNA. Magically, they have the same mathematical formula, the same exact geometry as the 64 I Chings. Every 6 days, the sun activates one of these 64 I Ching frequencies, which activates within us a corresponding genetic codon, which stimulates our consciousness, the theme of the life. When we enter into contemplation with a particular I Ching, especially with the I Ching the sun activates each week, then life sends us the experiences we need to unlock the shadow, which raises our vibration and awakens the divine within. The intention of this video is to serve you in the highest blessed way. This is abstract energy of sensing, so receive this message with your heart and body. This week, our sun, the sun within us, our consciousness, the life, is activating the 13th I Ching. The transformational path of this frequency moves us from the shadow of discord to the highest vibration of empathy, and it's through the path of discernment. The dilemma of this 13th shadow of discord is pessimism. So it's all about secrets. The I Ching is an ocean of secrets hidden within the human genetic code. And that's why the secrets are not well hidden, because they are inside each of us. And anytime someone decides to go deeper within, sooner or later they discover the secrets. They are all openly available through teachings, through embodied teachers, the elders, through the living role models who share them because they've discerned them for themselves. The only problem is to just listen, to open your eyes, your mind, your heart, and connect to the body, and read the secrets written all around us, inside us. At the shadow frequency, we simply don't listen. We can't hear the secrets. We allow life to get too busy. And simply, there's too much noise inside our heads. And there's too many layers of armor around our heart. So the great secret of the 13th I Ching is to listen. But the dilemma of this shadow is pessimism. We may hear the good news, but we don't believe it. We can't bring ourselves to believe it. How could so many be wrong and just me and a few be right? That is what the shadow whispers to us in our ear. And that's because the masses don't hear it. The mass consciousness of humanity is still operating, for the most part, in survival, security, and certainty. So pessimism is not the same thing as cynicism. It's not really a choice. It's a sense of hopelessness. It's a sense that things are out of order, out of alignment, and that your dreams can never come true. It's a sense that magic and idealism are only things that you have as a child. And when you become an adult, you have to put on the serious hat and go to work. And life really isn't fair, and the world somehow is going down the tubes, what people refer to as the real world, which I find amusing, since reality is utterly subjective. And in this real world that everyone refers to, everyone has to worry. You get this distinct impression that the world is falling apart, that things are in a decline, and that things are getting more and more out of control. Basically, things are only getting worse. No matter which generation you're born in, you always think that the end of the world is just around the corner. Every generation, as they get older, says, "In my day, things were simpler, easier, better." And this is the unconscious energetic dynamic at work. It's always looking at the past, thinking it was better. The 13th shadow is discord, and discord is an acoustic term. It's about hearing the shadow frequencies, unnerving sounds, seeing crises. It's all about reporting the bad news. It can only attune into the vibrations of chaos, and this is the programming of the mass consciousness. We believe what we're told to believe until we begin to break out of that and begin to question the status quo. This I Ching cuts really deep into some of the most deep human patterns. The original name of this hexagram in the I Ching is called the Fellowship of Man, a beautiful name. It's about the human emotional connection. It is what brought us together around the council fires forever. It's about listening to each other, and yet at the shadow frequency, it's filled with distrust. One human not trusting another. One tribe not trusting another tribe, and countries. It's about not trusting life. It's about not trusting the story of life, because life is a story, and that story follows a natural evolution curve. And that curve does not lead by design to chaos, even though science would like us to believe that. And that's because science today is part of the mass consciousness, the shadow consciousness. And of course, I'm not referring to the few pioneers, the open-minded, open-hearted scientists. I'm talking as a general impulse. It's part of the shadow frequency. Science at the moment believes that all life moves from order to disorder. It's all it sees. It's all it can see. If there's anything that leads to a pessimistic mind, it's this. This frequency is everywhere. It's in our news. It's in our communities. It's in our families. It's in our relationships. It's in our body. It's in our chemistry. If we're gullible enough to believe it, and we are. If we are deaf enough to hear it, and we are. This 13th I Ching at the shadow carries a lot of weight. At the shadow, we believe we're a victim of our fate. It's about only hearing the bad news, the heaviness. And when I say hearing, I also mean emotional hearing. To be at the shadow frequency is to be way down at the human wound. It means we don't see the beauty all around us. We don't see the hope. We don't see the best in the other. We don't see the interconnectedness of all things. We don't feel it. We don't experience the magical, the holographic dimensions. We don't trust in the mysterious purpose of the present moment constantly unfolding. We can't see it. We can't hear it. We can't hear love. We've forgotten about love, and that is the greatest secret of them all. At the 13th shadow, we have simply forgotten, and it's depressing as hell to forget about love. And it keeps us in hell. It keeps all of us in hell, in suffering. The 13th gift, the way to alchemize the shadow and raise the vibration, discernment. So how do we break the pattern? How do we attune back into love? How do we rebuild the fellowship of man? Well, it's easy. We simply listen. One word. We listen. We learn how to listen. We listen inwardly. We listen to our responses. We listen to our body. We listen to our chemistry. But above all, we listen to our heart. This is the secret. It's always been the secret. And it's coming alive in the collective voice again. This is a collective frequency, the fellowship of man. We are a fellowship. We only remember that we're a fellowship when we begin to listen to one another. This is the dream of the United States, the UN, the European Union. We have begun to create these type of circles where we listen to each other. We're not good at it yet, but it's a start. The 13th gift is about discernment, discerning the voice of the heart with the voice of the mind. It's not necessarily that the mind is wrong, but if the voice of the mind comes before the voice of the heart, then you have again discord. So you have to discern the heart first, then the mind. And the heart doesn't mean emotions. Listening to the heart means to fall into silence, into quietness. The impulse of the heart arises from stillness, from a pause, and as it arises, it brings freedom, and it carries great excitement and certainty. There is enormous leadership in this I Ching frequency. The 13th I Ching is paired with the 7th I Ching, its programming partner, and it's the gift of guidance. But you can only be a good guide once you know how to listen inwardly. And to really listen is to discern your own agenda and your own opinion running underneath, even when someone else is talking. Most of us are formulating an answer as someone else is talking, so you don't really hear them. This is emotional listening, and that is very different from heart listening. So discernment is to listen beyond the ears, listening to the hidden chords and notes in someone's speech or in their action or body language. You're taking in someone's whole heart. This 13th gift is the gift of hearing another person's heart, and you can only really do this when you can hear your own heart. And the heart exists at a higher plane, at a higher frequency than the mind or emotions. And this is what the gift frequency is. When you hit the higher vibration, the mind becomes more still, and you begin to hear the heart, what the heart is saying. You begin to listen to the evolutionary impulse moving behind events, moving behind everything, and you begin to feel the hidden higher purpose behind everything, and you begin to remember the secret. When you listen from your heart, from your inner truth, then you begin to see hope in everything all around you. You have to first resonate at that frequency. Your whole body has to vibrate at that higher frequency. And then you can feel the truth. You can feel through the body, through every cell of your being, the higher purpose within all things. The more you listen in this way, holding someone with a higher purpose, the more you will emanate that through your listening, and the more the other will feel that trust emanating from you. Now you may begin to see that the gift of discernment is truly transformative. It transforms you and it invites transformation in the other. And this is why it's called the fellowship of man, because true deep heart listening brings human beings into symphony, into resonance. The deeper we listen to life, to each other, to our relationships, to our DNA, the more and more dimensions open up. Human life is a masterpiece of melodies woven into light, and that is what contemplation is. It's the art of listening inwardly. There has never been anything outside of the self. As you become an ear, a receiving dish for the higher frequencies, the more you receive them, the more you amplify them. As we learn to listen into each other through the layers of the aura, we realize and open up to the quantum field that connects us all. Then our listening is no longer passive. It actually becomes an aspect of our radiance. We listen with love, and we discern only love. Even the shadow consciousness field, always rooted in pessimism, becomes charged by the quality of our listening. This is when our listening becomes the greatest medicine to our human wound. And then we finally make the quantum leap needed to overcome the patterns of our collective history. Listening is one of the greatest yin powers in all the universe because it's so giving, so trusting without agenda. Listening alone is the power to bring permanent change to our world. So the deeper you listen, the more optimistic you will become. And the deeper you listen, the higher your spirit can rise. And the deeper you listen, the more you will hear only one thing. You will hear love everywhere. The 13th city, the highest vibration, empathy. So the transformational path of this 13th I Ching moves from discord at the shadow frequency, to sympathy, discernment at the gift frequency, to empathy at the city frequency. You can see how acoustic this phenomenon of listening is. It involves the ear, the inner ear. Our intestines are great discerners that sift and draw out nutrients and dispose of what's not worthy in our digestion. It's an alchemical process that goes on in every corner of the universe. Everything is constantly digesting everything else all the time. And that is what listening is. That is what contemplation is. It's digestion. And that is what consciousness is, the universe listening to itself. So we enter inside another person, not just next to them, into them, with all beings. In the Judeo-Christian teaching, love thy neighbor as thyself, which is misinterpreted. It really means know your neighbor as thyself. Know them as you, as your mirror. Your neighbor is not separate from you. Your neighbor is you. Then you know love. There is a place inside each human being. There's a place inside you where you are nothing more than a simple listening presence. That is all that we are, the universe listening to itself. I empower you this week to create space, get to higher awareness, notice your thoughts, feel all the sensations fully that come up in the body this week. Shine the light of awareness to any pessimism and negative thoughts. Bring your attention to your body, the sensations that are connected to those thoughts. Breathe into the sensations deeply past the belly. Love yourself and be blessed.